Pedro.
More Papa Pedro. We have Last of Us. So The Last of Us is done. It's over. They ended season 1. Nothing surprising really about it. I mean, they pretty much follow the game.
They followed the game to a T.
Basically, done.
They did a really good job at highlighting the human parts of it, which I will definitely give to this series. Like, it's... I know that The Walking Dead very much like prided themselves on being like, it's about the human element of the zombie apocalypse.
The humans are the real monsters.
Right, but like the Last of Us didn't have to even say it. They just showed it. They walked the walk, and while they didn't have like quite as much cordyceps, you know, like
we were talking about this before the show today. Like I felt like through the whole season, looking back, when I finished watching it last night, I was like, I barely realized there was a zombie apocalypse going on. Like,
because it was just
you almost
a lot
never
of
see
humans.
them.
Right. Well, and I know you mentioned like there was like a clicker once or twice in there, and I'm wondering also if that's because the clickers just like terrorized you in the game.
Yeah, maybe. How many episodes was The Last of Us? It was 9 episodes.
9 episodes.
And how many had the clickers?
Like 4?
4? Maybe 5?
Well,
like where they make any sort of appearance.
They're pretty heavy in the front, like with the cordyceps virus being there. But then they do have a couple of flashes in the latter episodes where there are like appearances of those.
Basically, the Ellie flashback episode, you see 1.
Yeah.
You don't see any in the Jackson Hole episode.
Which is fine because they're establishing a safe human settlement.
You only kind of see them in the Bill episode.
They allude to them.
They allude to them, but they're basically, they don't feel like an ever-present threat to me in this show.
Though anytime they go into an abandoned building, I'm like, oh God, like here it comes.
And then obviously when the little kid gets bit.
Yeah, that was rough.
But I mean, you see a clicker for like 2 seconds in the final episode. It's like, oh, comes in, bites Ellie's mom.
Yeah, that wasn't a clicker though. They show a clicker.
Oh no,
later
yeah,
in a flashback.
she just got a cordyceps.
Yeah, no, she had just like one of. I don't know if anybody played. I think it was either Dead by Daylight or Back 4 Blood that had the witches that cried in the corner.
Left
4 Dead. Left 4 Dead. It was Left 4 Dead. That's what the I don't even know what to call them. The infected being that attacked Ellie's mom reminded me of. It was like hyper aggressive. It was going after her because most of the time, if you hide from them,
they don't do anything.
They won't come after you. But she got hunted down.
Yeah, it's following her across the thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's rough, buddy.
So
yes.
Again, no big surprises. It ends the way the game ends. Overall, what were your thoughts on the season?
I think it was really well done. I try very hard not to be biased about the fact that, like, I think the casting was just phenomenal.
Brilliant.
It was so well done, and it was very, like, it was so well done to the fact that it was emotionally gripping. So I just continued to watch it, right? But, like, watching the last 2 episodes back to back was rough.
I can imagine if you watch the last 2 back to back. Jeez.
Yeah, like especially because I got to watch people play the game, right? And I remember that the sections in the game that they did for the last 2 episodes sucked. Like it was hard. It was difficult. It was tense. It was intense. Like it was a very difficult time to watch people like go through those and then actually watch it on the screen.
You need the giraffe section after going through the
I really did need the giraffe section.
You were just like, oh.
I needed more.
I was waiting to see how they were going to do that, and I thought that they did a really good job with that section.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like the aftercare part of it, right? Of like, here you go, it's a really cool animal interaction.
I think the show focused a lot more on Joel.
Yes.
And his character development. I saw way less character development from Ellie than I did from Joel.
Yes. Well, and I do think that that's partially based off of the fact that, like, you get to see the growth of the relationship between Joel and Ellie, right?
But it's very Joel-centric in this season.
100%, which I do think that they kind of shot themselves in the foot if they're deciding to do
the
second season based on the second game.
We're going to get to that in a couple of minutes. I think it's a lot more Joel-focused, and his changing from your cargo to baby girl.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Which, again, brings up, the same stuff. I did see an interesting article on Kotaku where they were talking about now that it's a TV show on HBO, all the mainstream, publications are talking about, the moral dilemmas of the end of the show, gamers haven't been discussing it for 10 years.
Right. Well, and actually, I saw another really interesting article where this actually provides an avenue for other games, right, or other TV series to become an all-encompassing thing, where if you have a good TV series, then we can start making it into a video game or vice versa. Yeah. And so I'm interested to see what this kind of sparks in the creative world as well for development, because there are quite a few shows where I'd be like, yeah, that'd be kind of a cool game. I'd love to do that. If I could play as a Mandalorian, absolutely.
Yes.
Take bounties? Hell yeah.
That should be the Ubisoft game.
Right? Oh, yes.
Assassin's Creed style and just do Mandalorian. All right, stay on topic.
I just know I'd use my jetpack. Give us a Halo show with less faces and butts. That's funny.
it's the issue with doing Game 2, and again, because this one was so Joel-centric.
Right.
They weren't focused on the clicker or the infection as much.
Yeah, the infected.
I think you got a lot of work to do with a second season to get Ellie's character development up.
Yes, especially because a lot of Ellie's character development and personal growth is it's so secondary that you're just oh yeah, Ellie's there, she has a book of puns, she went through some really traumatic crap, and now she's here trying to figure out if she needs to trust this dude who treats her like cargo. And you do get to see the development of their relationship, but you don't get to see how she is growing through the things that she has been through.
Well, again, there's a difference, we've talked about this, the difference between the tactile feel of playing through the game.
Right.
Right. Versus watching it on television.
Right.
Right. In the game, you don't get to play as Ellie until that sequence pretty deep in, but then you are Ellie at that point.
Right.
Right.
And you get to meet the violence, right?
And you get to meet the violence, and you get to do all that stuff while you're trying to save Joel, while you're doing all this other stuff. And so, and that's again an area where, because that section of the game feels like it's longer, right? Where you're playing as Ellie over that winter.
Yes.
Versus, that was an episode.
It was a single episode. It was,
right.
I do think that
the boss fight where you're Ellie and you're fighting that dude versus how they did it in the show where it's a 2-minute sequence. And they capitalize it with some severe violence.
I was grateful that it was a 2-minute sequence because I don't think I could have taken the half an hour of wandering around and trying to hide from this dude while you're trying to figure out what you're doing in a burning building. Huh?
But I think that they got some heavy lifting for season 2.
They really do.
Heavy lifting.
And they already talked about the possibility of making the second game into 2 seasons as it is. Which I think is a good idea.
And I know chat's saying they've confirmed it. I haven't seen that because near as I know, the last thing that I saw confirmed, if you've got a source, I'd love to see it, truthfully, because the last I saw was that HBO had greenlit season 2, but they haven't story locked it. And they haven't got scripts written.
Gotta give them time to rest.
Well, the funny thing is that the writers have had time to rest because the writers get done and then it goes to filming and post-production. They're not doing anything. They can start writing, which is why, actually, the thing is, for just a brief kickback to Mando, season 4 of Mando's already written. It's done.
Wow.
Jon Favreau it's done.
More episodes now, then.
Okay.
Well, Druckmann's part of it, too, so, knows.
That's true.
He worked on the game.
Yeah.
So, eyes on the.
And this thing might need a few years to let Bella Ramsey grow up a little. I don't know how old Bella Ramsey is right now. I can look that up really quick.
20.
Bella is 18, I think.
And I don't know, how old is Ellie supposed to be? She's 19. Okay. How old is Ellie supposed to be in the second game?
I think it's set 2 years after the fact.
Yeah.
So maybe they are giving her time to age up, which that's what they did with Stranger Things.
So Ellie is supposed to be, what, 14, 15 right now?
Yeah.
She's 19 in the second game.
19 in the second game? Okay.
But how old is she in the first game? 14?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got a 4 or 5 year time jump,
Right.
right? So, by the way, actually, I want to mention this. They got both. I'm so glad they got both Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson
Yes.
into the show. I think that was a classy move.
Yes. It was a very good way to do that, too.
To make sure that they were like, you played Joel and Ellie, now you're going to do this. The fact that they made her Ellie's mom
That was
brilliant.
an incredible way to connect both the Ellie of the game to the Ellie of the show. And they actually talk about that in the making of The Last of Us at the very end.
If you're not watching those HBO features after the episode for Last of Us,
Oh, yeah.
I started
missing
watching them with House of the Dragon. They're so good.
They
Give you like just that little bit of insight.
I used to skip those just because I didn't care, right? But now that, like, especially because I am so invested in these, it's really neat to see, like,
What their thought process
Yeah, the
is.
thought process behind it, the technical process behind it. They showed, what is it, Millennia? The Firefly lady. Sorry. Marlena, thank you. Had Elden Ring on my brain. Anyways, they show her being filmed walking up to take care of Ellie's mom after she has been infected. And that was like, it was a really cool shot of like, there's a cameraman watching the cameraman to show you what the cameraman is doing while they're filming the scene, you know?
Yeah.
That's a lot of forethought too.
Yeah, it is. I also like the one they did at the end of the Bill episode where they were like, this is why we extended this.
Yeah.
Right? Because in the game, like, you don't get any of that. Like,
There
the
were just
Bill
hints.
stuff, is pretty much made up whole cloth. That whole episode was all brand new. And the Bill episode was, in my opinion, one of the best. Like, of the 9-episode season, it's top 3.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
me,
Like,
as far as how good the episode was.
Bill was like kind of just a jerk a little bit.
yeah, he
like
was just a
helper
mean
in the
person.
game, But that was awesome.
Bill went from being the equivalent of like Bobby from Supernatural to being like a character where you're like, oh, Bill.
So when Bill dies, you're like,
yeah.
You're like, oh, damn.
Yeah, like it was very much, it was just like that tangible grief.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good.
I believe that you could probably stretch the second game into 2 seasons. I also think you could fit it in 1 season. I think it would be a bad idea. When Craig Mazin and Druckmann are talking about will it fit in 1 season, they're actually doing a very Hollywood thing, which is they're saying, oh no, it won't fit in 2 seasons, because the problem is it's not their decision.
Right.
Okay? There is a senior VP of production and development at Warner Brothers who's the one who's going to go, here's the $9 million you need to make this,
Right.
right?
Do it.
Go ahead and go, because Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann are not the ones going, let me turn on the money faucet.
Right.
Right? They don't get to make, exactly, they're angling for more seasons. They don't get to make that decision. So they're angling right now. They're like, oh, we need more than 1 season.
The chat just mentioned the penicillin shot, by the way, and that was definitely something that I was super cringing at because
Oh, yeah.
at the very end, she like clicks the syringe closed, and I was like, oh, what if you just got an air bubble right into, like, what have you done? Did you just kill him?
But she doesn't know.
No, she doesn't know. She literally was like, Joel, how the hell do I do this? I don't know what I'm doing.
Right,
And then
I was
she's
like,
just like, fine,
how much
prep.
is she going to put in there?
And she did a lot. And she didn't prep. That was a lot. It was a lot.
Yes.
But it also shows like the panic behind having, you know, a loved one who she has been very connected to and very attached to. You've seen that growth. He's dying. Like, she's panicking. She doesn't know how to help him, and she's panicking trying to figure out how to get the medicine into him.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we think is going to happen for season 2. So, in my opinion,
Is it a humble opinion or a regular opinion?
It's a regular opinion. They're planning more than one. I think if you jump straight into Last of Us Part 2,
With
the
no
game,
context?
in the first episode of season 2, you're screwed. I think you're gonna drive. Now keep in mind, we are all gamer weirdo people, right?
Yes.
We're not the majority of the audience for Last of Us,
No,
right?
that's for normies.
It's the normies. That's how they make money. If it was only gamer weirdos watching the show, as somebody mentioned in the chat, it would be Netflix and they would cancel it after season 1.
Yep.
Right? Because it wouldn't be enough. There wouldn't be enough. So if they go straight in, again, looking at when, and I don't consider this spoilers because the game's been out for 5 years now?
Yeah. And
Last of Us 2?
You can either catch it on Twitch, YouTube, whatever. There are people who have done full playthroughs
Of
if you ever
Last of
want
Us
to see
2,
it
so
without having to play it.
I'm sorry, you're not protected from spoilers here. Joel dies really early in that game.
And because Papa Pedro has been carrying the show,
And because so much of the character development in season 1 was around Joel.
Not to say that Ellie has not carried herself well.
Oh no,
right?
she's done great.
But like they have to be able to establish, because they have set the precedent of focusing on the human element versus being like, there's zombies everywhere, right? Or infected everywhere. They have to also follow through with the precedent that they set in season 1, which means that they're probably going to have to give us a lot of like back context. They're going to have to give us some, like fleshing out of Abby as well. Like, and give us some time where you just see Ellie grow into the woman that she's going to become in the second game.
Right. So somebody in the chat mentioned it. It's give us some in between time.
Yes.
I think you need at least a full season.
Right.
Of between the first game and the second game.
Yeah.
Before you jump into the events of Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah.
Because I think if you jump straight into Last of Us Part 2, and even if you wait till like episode 2 of your 9-episode season or 18-episode run to kill off Joel, you are going to hork a lot of people off.
Well, yeah.
And I don't think you're going to get any sympathy for Abby.
No.
I think the whole thing is going to turn into, I think that people will miss the point.
They'll miss the, it's kind of like a very, I don't want to say it's just like, it's a very emotional thing. Like you have to establish that emotional base before you show the extremes that you're going to show.
Right.
From the second game.
And I think if they try and do that character development, that time jump in a montage, like to show Ellie like growing up and becoming who she's going to be, I think they're going to lose.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot.
There's so much to be said for like showing them getting to establish themselves in a human settlement.
You did a whole episode that took place over like 2 hours in a mall.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you jump in here and are like,
negate that by just doing.
We're gonna do 2 hours of 2 years, cut that montage, and oh, Joel's dead now. Like,
right.
I think if you do that, you are absolutely screwed. And I think that the normie fans, the people who haven't played the game,
You're also going to lose a lot of fans who just watch for Pedro Pascal.
and exactly, I think they're going to lose a lot of people that way. I think it's bad.
There is something to be said about watching vengeance be carried out, but if you don't know the context of that vengeance, it just turns into watching violence be carried out.
And that's what I'm worried about. Again, I'm worried that to drive the point home, they're going to do some stuff that I think it's okay. So that's what we have to say about Last of Us. Let us know what you think. Come into the store, argue with us. Tell me why you think that Last of Us was crap.
Or why you think it was amazing, and what you hope to see for season 2 or possible season 3.
Yep.
Oh, it says here on the internet that you haven't liked or subscribed or hit the notification bell, and that if you don't, the IRS is going to punch you in the dink.